Now, I thought for some sort of a semblance of a Halloween-themed video, I would give you what I thought are the scariest, the freakiest episodes of Doctor Who, and that is in the form of a top 5 scariest episodes of Doctor Who. Now, first off, a couple of clarifications and things, so this is just my opinion. Your top 5 might not be the same as mine, and that's totally fine as long as we're both having fun, but you might totally agree with my list, and that's also pretty cool. Also, this is not a definitive list. I had a list of about 10 or so episodes that seemed like they could go on here, and I did my best to sort of get the 5 best ones and rank them to the best of my ability, but you know, tomorrow you might ask me and I might put them slightly differently on any given day, and it's hard to know exactly which ones go where, and I'll drop some honorable mentions at the very end. I think that's all that you need to know, so without further ado, let's get started with the top 5 scariest episodes of Doctor Who. The Waters of Mars. This is an episode that every single time I watch it, I love it even more. I didn't used to love this episode, but at this point I thoroughly love it. And if we're talking just based off of the scary elements of the episode, they're really well utilized, really well portrayed in a way that is just creepy. The skin around the mouth and the way that they just don't stop going for our heroes of this story. Not only is the story great, but they are very scary in this, and they're used quite well, I think. The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. So, this episode features the Silence, which are just, I think, one of the best villains created in New Who. The idea that you literally can't remember these when you aren't looking at them is incredible. It's unbelievable, and I love what's done with them in this story, and they're incredibly freaky, and they're utilized in such a great way. The way that you'll have a marking on your arm, you'll realize that you were around one. It's really well utilized. It's really freaky. It is a great story. Midnite, another episode I love more every single time I watch it. This one's really scary. This is one of the scary ones, the ones that are going for that kind of thing, and I love how this story builds. It builds really well, and this Midnite creature, entity thing, it's incredibly effective, and it's such a unique villain to a Doctor Who episode, and it's so well utilized in this story. I just love the way Russell T Davies writes this. It's really freaky, it's great, it's one of the best ones. The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, written by Stephen Moffat. This episode is terrifying. I love the use of just a child in a gas mask. This just the repetition of "Are you my mummy?" It's very freaky. It's a small little thing. It's not the biggest. It's not overblown, and that kind of is effective in succeeding in being scary. This idea that is just so simple and so well utilized and freaky, and there's some really wonderful stuff. I love the beginning of the Doctor Dances where they discover that the child is in the room and that the tape is not playing. It's great. There's so many great things in this one. I love it. Blink may be an obvious choice, but for good reasons. Not only is this one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever, but also the Weeping Angels are incredibly well utilized in this story. They're freaky. They're just, just the concept. They cannot move while you're looking at them, but the second you turn away, the second you blink, they're that fast. And it's such a great, well-utilized villain. I use that word a lot, but and also it's very interesting for the story because they send the characters back in time, which adds for some really interesting things, and it's super cool and fun. But also, they're just really, really a great villain. Possibly my favorite villain of all time in Doctor Who. They're just that good. I love the Weeping Angels. And the way that they're presented in the story is great. The way they're kind of in the background of certain scenes, the way that they're in the forefront of others, it's a great balance, and they're a great villain. And this is a very, very scary story. Now, the actual meaning of scary is, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what things to call scary and what things aren't actually all that scary. And some episodes are more freaky than they are scary. Some episodes are more unsettling than they are scary. So to say I'm legitimately scared or afraid while I'm watching Blink might not necessarily be true, but scary is just kind of the defining term for Halloween stuff, so that's kind of the word that I'm using, even though some of these episodes are more like freaky or are more intense, unsettling. So that's just kind of my terminology. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. So, in terms of honorable mentions, episodes that didn't quite make it, and on another day might have, The Impossible Planet, The Satan Pit, Sounds in the Library, Forest of the Dead, The Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, Listen, World Enough in Time, and The Doctor Falls. And that was one of the reasons that one didn't make it, because The Doctor Falls isn't particularly frightening. What are the scariest episodes of Doctor Who to you? Or the freakiest? Or the most unsettling? Or the most unnerving? Whatever terminology we want to use is fine by me. What are some episodes of Doctor Who that are a little bit freaky? If you want to check out any more of my videos, I have loads up on the channel. Loads and loads of classic Doctor Who reviews, other rankings. And yeah, that's going to be all for today. So, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.